We're back for another episode of the Daily Telegraph NRL Podcast. Adam Mobbs and Michael Carayannis here, and almost not Brent Reid. Did you not get the memo about times?
I had a meeting this morning, early meeting, and I've taken a wrong turn. It was partially my fault. I've taken a wrong turn coming across the bridge, got stuck in the city. But can you explain to me, right, why can't they coordinate traffic lights? It goes green, the next one's red. That goes green, the next one's red. If they're all green, the traffic flows. Why can't you coordinate traffic lights? Is it that hard?
Well, it must be hard to coordinate your route into work.
My question for you, how many times have you crossed that bridge?
I know, 100 times, yeah. I don't know how I did it.
I must admit, I get a little worried about it. You don't get that trouble going over the Anzac Bridge or heading out west.
Anyway, I'm here now, that's the main
That's the main
And it's
thing.
a wet weather, coming from the northern beaches in the city, nightmare. That's the price you pay for living in God's country.
Dry track
folks.
specialist, are you, Reid?
God's country. That's it.
It's a racing reference from you. I didn't expect that today.
My mother was a mother. Father was a mother. You don't get there. There's no Seinfeld, does he? There's no Seinfeld.
Oh, one of the greats.
I haven't watched Seinfeld.
Oh,
I've seen it, but I don't.
you've seen it? Oh, wow.
I'm aware of Seinfeld.
MASH?
Yeah, no.
Oh, that is old school.
No. The only time I used to watch MASH was, it used to be on before The Simpsons on Channel 10 sometimes.
Yeah.
So you'd cop the end of it when I wanted to watch The
You
Simpsons.
cop the end of it. Hawkeye and
There
Trap,
was
I
a
don't want to
question
hear that
on,
from
I was
you.
watching a bit of the Chases. There was a question about MASH on it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I reckon
Do you want me to ask you?
I reckon I can answer
Who was the old bloke in it? The
Colonel Potter?
Colonel Potter. What sort of hat did he wear all the time?
No, he didn't have the cowboy. He didn't have the cowboy hat. He had. What did he have?
It's a
Jeez,
great television.
now you've got
I've
me.
got him. I've stumped you.
Yeah, you've got
Think
me.
about it.
I'll come back to you.
I got it.
Trying to
It
think.
gave you 3 options, which helps. It was like cowboy hat, fishing hat, one other one. I can't remember.
Fishing hat was Henry Blake. That was Colonel Blake.
Hello.
Colonel Blake it was.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Colonel Blake. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you got it.
I got there. GOT.
Hello.
I want to talk
Anyway,
football.
football.
Well, anything
Wonga
but-
Blake. You want to talk Wonga Blake, the other
I'm
Blake.
much more aware of Wonga Blake than I am of
Henry Blake.
like, what's
Close
doing.
relations.
At least someone's aware of Wonga Blake.
Whoa. What does that
Well, he hasn't
mean?
got a deal yet.
Yeah.
Still hasn't got a contract, Wonga. Playing for one at the Pacific Championships.
Didn't you crap on him the other day?
Hey,
On
Wonga
this
Blake.
podcast?
Did I?
Who'd you crap on?
Crap on, pal. Crap on anyone.
I think it was when you were away. You were smashing someone. Who did
Sean
you smash?
Kepi.
Sean Kepi.
I didn't smash him. I just said he frustrates me.
And then he said, were you here for that podcast where you offered one-on-one tutelage to Sean Kepi? Has he taken you up on that offer?
You offered it.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Anyway, let's talk footy.
I got the follow up the week later,
Anyway,
but yeah.
let's talk about him bagging Josh Addo-Carr.
Yeah. What about Josh Addo-Carr? Where's he going to be playing next season?
Well, it depends on who you ask, but there's some funny games I think that will play out for the next couple of weeks. The Dogs met with Josh Addo-Carr this week and reiterated their desire to keep him
Did they
at
Nick?
the club.
Did they? Okay.
Yep, they did, Brent, yes. But that hasn't stopped other clubs from watching this situation closely and putting an interest forward. Those clubs are Parramatta, the Tigers, Newcastle, are all clubs that if Josh Addo-Carr became available, they'd like to make a deal. But the situation for Canterbury is that they're desperate for a middle forward, right? Desperate. So when Ryan Madison's name was touted as a potential swap option between Parramatta and Canterbury, they knocked that on the head because what they want is a middle forward. If Parramatta said, I'm not saying they would, but if Parramatta said, here's Junior Paulo, Canterbury would jump at that, right? If Newcastle came back to him and said, here's Jacob Safidi, they'd jump at it. But I don't think either of those are going to happen.
No. Well, Maddo plays a little bit of middle.
He does.
But yeah, obviously he's very effective on the edge. The Bulldogs have just signed Josh Curran, which I think is a good pickup.
signing, yeah.
I can't get my head around that. Obviously they've got a bit of movement to make over there at the Warriors. They've got not a lot of guys down on long-term deals, Reedy. So
They have like 10 new blokes.
Well,
this year,
someone
Canterbury.
suggested to me yesterday that the Warriors are sort of angling for a big signing. I don't know who it is. That's the way it was portrayed to me, that's why they're letting Josh Curran go. I know you say Josh Curran's a good signing, right? And I don't mind him as a player either. But you know what? They've signed a lot of
He's the
middle
Sean
tier.
Kepi
The
treatment,
Bulldogs have
hasn't
signed
he?
a lot of middle tier players.
I agree with that. You take Stephen Crichton out, who's
He's
genuinely...
the only one. He's the only gun, those superstar, dead set, can't miss gun they've
But
signed.
at this time of year, when there's not much around, there's not many free agents.
He's a good
He wasn't a
signing.
free agent.
Yeah.
I think that's a decent pickup. You're not going to sit there and get a world beater.
He could
this
start
time
at
of year,
13 for them. Josh
Really?
Curran. Yeah.
Okay.
With Kickow and Preston on the edge. And that's a good back row. Their issues, their forward back, their middle.
It's not an elite back row, though, is it? It's a good back row.
Kick out should be elite.
Right?
Preston's an emerging player.
Yep.
And Curran, I think, has a lot of upside.
He's solid, Mick.
It's not a bad back row.
And my understanding was, I'm not sure he was desperate to go there because I know he rung another club on Tuesday, I think it was. I was told basically pleading with them to sign him. So, he's obviously gone there because it sounds like that was the most realistic option he had, which worries me that's the most realistic option.
We've mentioned it a lot now with Canterbury. What they've done is they've improved their squad, vastly improved their squad.
Well, couldn't get any worse, Mick.
Yeah. But their depth is better. The range of positions they've got better. Their training standards will be better. Is it enough to make them a top 8 contender? No.
Nope.
Not for mine.
They need halves. I mean, I don't think anyone's convinced Matt Burton's a half yet. A half or a 5'8". They need halves. Who's going to get them around?
There's lots of question marks, right? You look at that side, and where do you play Stephen Crichton? Where do you play Black Taff? Where do you play Matt Burton? When you have those, it's great to have players that are versatile and competing for spots, but I always think that's a little bit fraught with danger because when it doesn't work, we get into round 4 or 5. They do the merry-go-round, and they swap positions again, and they do all this stuff, and then you've got a whole off season that sort of wasted a little bit. So. But, that's a negative look, right? It could work. They could have Stephen Crichton firing at fullback or centre and everything could be rosy there. I just wary of it's going to take some time to find their best positions, and what happens if they start poorly? Do they blow it all up and start again? The
other issue is, we spoke about Josh Addo-Carr, really. They've got to resolve that. I mean, that is clearly a simmering issue at that footy club. And rival clubs know about it. They're sniffing around. As Mick mentioned, the club's sniffing around him. If he's unsettled and they're unsettled, how's that? That's not going to help them. I think they're almost better off with Josh. I get the sense neither party's really happy at the moment with that situation.
I agree.
So just let him go and get something for him, because other clubs desperate. They will pay for him.
Yeah, he's on a lot of money, right? He's on $1 million for the next 2 years, a bit more than roughly $1 million for the next 2 years total. Yeah. And clubs will be. Parramatta would probably, if they moved it forward, they'd probably take that.
So let's explain that, because Parramatta's top 30 is actually
locked in. It's
at the
full,
moment, so
right?
they need to move.
They need to move someone, and you need to move it to accommodate Josh Addo-Carr. You need to move a top end player. And what's Parramatta's strengths? Obviously, their forward pack. So if you were going to lose someone, it would come out of that forward pack.
So if we're talking middle forwards, let's have a little look. As an Eels enthusiast, I was just having a look before. Campbell Gillard, Junior Barlow, Joe Offengowie, Jermaine Hopgood, Wiramu Greg, Makahisi Makatoa, Ofahiki Ogden, and Kai Rodwell's probably the only other prop I could see in that system. If you're Canterbury, which of those guys would you deem an acceptable swap for Josh Addo-Carr?
Reg, Barlow, Hopgood.
Yep. I'm the same.
Tick, tick, tick.
And have Parramatta given up any of those three?
Probably not.
No, I wouldn't be giving them up for a winger. They've got a lot of. They've got one too many back rows, probably Parramatta, rather than middles. So that's why there was that suggestion around Ryan Madison. But I don't know. Are you losing an elite player to sign a winger, and an elite forward to sign a winger?
Only if you've got enough cover for them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing it.
But all those clubs, you mentioned Parramatta would pay full freight for him. All those clubs will pay full freight for him.
I don't think Newcastle couldn't carry him.
Well, why would you let him go unless you were getting his salary covered? Well, I wouldn't let him go unless it's Josh Addo-Carr.
Well, that's part of the conversation.
You're not giving up a dud. I mean, if you're going to let him go,
Newcastle.
I'm not chipping in any money for
Newcastle's salary cap's tight, right? With trying to re-sign Best and Jacob Safidi.
Well, just let Jacob Safidi go.
You'd let Jacob Safidi go to sign Josh Addo-Carr?
Maybe, yeah.
I would not do that.
Okay, depends what sort of forward depth I've got. But
well, if you're Newcastle, you're letting Jacob Safidi go. You'd swap, essentially.
I'd probably let Daniel go, to be honest, and try and keep Jacob, but that's not going to happen.
You'd swap one of them for Josh Addo-Carr.
Yeah.
I would not do that.
So what's the issue with the Knights there when you've got Kalen Ponga at fullback? Obviously they've lost Dom Young, but Marshu's there, Bess is there, Gagai's still there. I mean, you think maybe next year might be his last year. Leon Price.
Will Price. Yeah, but Will Price isn't quite ready. I mean, he's 18, first year in the NRL. He's going to take a bit of time. He's not like Kai Pearce-Paul, the other Pommy kid who's coming. He's ready to go.
Did you hear Jackson Hastings on that Triple M pod the other day? Looking very much forward to playing with KPP.
Yeah. He
again,
can play.
and yeah,
And he's the sort of kid who
edge.
this year, I reckon, playing an NRL system, he will explode.
Yeah.
He could potentially explode this year for him. But Will Price is a different matter. I think he's going to be a work in progress for them. I mean, he's got a lot of talent, a lot of ability. As I said, he's only 18 and 19. He's going to take a bit of time, I think. So you get Josh Addo-Carr, he just slots straight in the wing.
Yeah, for Tom Young. Obviously, they haven't replaced Tom Young. They've signed that Tom Jenkins from Penrith as well that could compete for a starting spot on the wing there. But, you throw Josh Addo-Carr into that back line and you're going, wow. Yeah. Strike, baby.
Tigers, the other ones. I mean, Benji loves Josh Addo-Carr. He inquired about him a couple of months ago. There was some talk around Josh Addo-Carr. I know the Tigers were interested in him there.
For mine, he doesn't add much to the Tigers. He adds to Parramatta and he adds to Newcastle. Just because of where the Tigers are at. I don't think they need to spend. They've already got $500,000 spent on David Norfoluma. They're going to have $1 million.
He's on his last year, right?
I think.
And they'd be happy.
Of course, but who's taking him? So they're going to have $1 million on wingers.
They may lose Junior Tupou, right? He's going to go. The young kid who went really well this year. He's going to market.
I wouldn't be letting him go to sign Josh Addo-Carr.
They're not trying to let him go.
No, but I'm saying. Yeah. So if I'm Newcastle, I can understand it. If I'm Parramatta, I can understand it because they're set in other positions and they get that bit of X factor on the wing. If I'm the Tigers, I think money could be better spent elsewhere.
Don't you think Josh is a difference maker though? Like,
we've seen it when he doesn't have great service, like any winger. What can happen? But if I'm playing outside Dylan Brown and Mitch Moses, 100%. If I'm playing outside, Kalen Ponga, sweet.
Yeah. Tigers.
Jury's out for mine on their halves still, right? So that's what I mean. I think, if I'm the Tigers, I'd rather sign Bradman Best than Josh Addo-Carr.
Yeah, but they're in different price brackets.
Of course, I understand all that,
and
right?
they're in different situations in their careers. I mean, Bradman doesn't, as I understand, doesn't want to leave Newcastle. Josh would seem vulnerable. It's more of a realistic proposition.
But as I said, if I'm the Tigers,
and there's about a $250,000 difference.
If I'm the Tigers, I'm not spending $500,000 on a winger. At the moment.
On another winger.
Yeah, but mate, Norfoluma.
Oh, he's there, Brent. Yeah. And they're paying him $500,000. So you can't just say, oh, he's irrelevant. Can you?
Yes.
Okay.
I can say whatever I want.
Well, you're already swapping poor Safidi, one of the Safidis, for Josh Addo-Carr.
Now, just for the listeners, what was the reaction from clubs yesterday when this was happening? Because they don't like their laundry being aired, especially around this time of year.
There's a bit of confusion, right, with this Josh Addo-Carr situation because, there's no doubt Parramatta would be keen. There's no doubt Newcastle would be keen. There's no doubt Tigers would be keen, right? And I'm sure they're not alone. There'd be some other clubs that would look at him as well. But, some clubs fear that they're just being part of the games that are going on at Canterbury, potentially.
A lot of games go on at that club, don't they, Canterbury?
What do you think that is?
And it was Gus put a tweet out yesterday. Was that in response to your tweet? Did you ever establish that?
I'm not sure. I'm blocked.
Oh, okay. Because it was like directly on your tweet.
I think that was a timeline.
Some sort of snarky comment.
No, it wasn't a reply. We checked that, right? It wasn't.
You think it was just a generic comment about that Gus made about the media and how we play games or something?
I'm not sure. Mobs is not blocked.
Oh, I tell you what, he's reposted it as well.
Can you read it out?
He's retweeted himself.
He's retweeted himself.
Sometimes I just sit here and laugh at the things people say and do. I have no idea what motivates them. They are obviously too smart for me. They are operating on a whole different level. Enjoy your evening, everyone. Thumbs up emoji, 100% emoji, love heart emoji.
Maybe it was a reflective comment about himself, because a lot of people would say that about Gus.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Likes to play some games and some stuff out there.
Speaking of games.
Speaking of games, what's going on? You spoke with the great Ryan Papenhuyzen yesterday with a weekend report that suggesting another rival club, another third party. A lot of third parties reaching out just to see whether they were interested in taking over his contract, for which he's got 2 years to go.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I loved Ryan's response.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty, what's the word? he was pretty sanguine about it. Is that the right word about it all? I mean, he said it's part of the business. Yeah, you like that word? That's right. What word? But he said it's part of the business of rugby league.
What word was that?
The players, when they have sanguine, I think it is, sanguine. SANGUINE. I think that's right.
Do you reckon when
pretty
people,
relaxed
do you
about it.
reckon when people read our column that we do together, they can tell who's written what? Because sanguine is not in my
You can take the
vocab.
boy out of the Oz, but you can't take the Oz out of the boy. Yeah, but he was pretty relaxed about it. I mean, he acknowledged that he hasn't played a lot of footy in a long time because of injuries, and that clubs and look, I've got to say, Melbourne in response to that story have contacted me and said it wasn't us. It had nothing to do with us. They're not happy about some of the way it was portrayed. But obviously Ryan whilst the club and Frank Panisi and Craig Bellamy reached out to him and said we still want you at the club. I think Ryan's realistic enough to realise that maybe there's some people on the fringes of the club who may have reached out to other clubs about
Maybe
him.
in fringes of the club.
Oh yeah, you've always got people around the edges.
Okay.
Or agents are involved in this sort of thing.
Or other clubs even.
Or other clubs potentially who are
Asking
trying to
questions.
unsettle. Look,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what Melbourne think. They think this is has come from a certain club that has its eyes on Su'a wants Su'a trying to unsettle things in Melbourne, and as a result of that, maybe Fa'alongo becomes
Unsettled?
well, not unsettled, but the potentially Melbourne take their eyes off the ball a little bit and Fa'alongo becomes somehow available, and then the ripple effect is that they can get their hands on him. Having spoken to Ryan, look, I mean, he's of the belief that all three of them, him, Nick Meaney and Su'a, can all fit in the team together, which is realistic. I think Meaney will play in the centres next year.
Yeah.
I think Ryan will be their starting fullback, provided he's fit, and I would imagine he will be fit. He thinks he'll be back at training in January, and then Fa'alongo will be their 14. And that's the way you get all three of them in the team.
Yeah.
But he's realistic enough to know that he hasn't played a lot of footy, and there's going to be murmurs about him. And he's not offended by it. I didn't take it as though he was at odds with the club over it, or
No, not at all.
he was quite, as I said, relaxed and sanguine about it.
Yeah.
Relaxed about it.
And I love the fact that he said, look, I'm sure the club told me they still want me. I'm wanted. And whoever was making that suggestion, I know they were making a mistake if they did move me on. I love the confidence about it.
Yeah.
And flowing into the fact that you've said that he's told that he visited his surgeon this week and told he can start walking without the aid of the moon boot from next week.
Can take it off for 2 hours a day from next week, and then 6 hours a day the week after. Hopes to be training, full training in January. Should be fit for the start of the season. And look, I think we all just hope he has a bit of luck because he needs some. He's due, overdue some, Ryan.
Yeah.
And look, I think Melbourne can comfortably fit those three guys in their 17 because, let's face it, they're so invested in their 1, 6, 7, 9 financially, and then you've obviously got Nelson Asafa-Solomona, Christian Welsh on on the money there. So
they've got money though. They're in the market for Mick, obviously the story last week about the swap between Justin Olam and Sean Bloor potentially. So there'll be a spot in the centres if Olam goes, which Meaney will fill.
Correct.
And they're desperate to sign a middle forward, just a tough nut to help them out in the centre of the field. And Bloor would play a bit of edge and middle. I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
And maybe they move, or maybe he plays edge and they move Liero to the middle. So they're still looking to sign both. So got a bit of cash still.
What about these certain clubs potentially making? Just agitating, just little moves that go on in the background.
Which club do you reckon it was? I know which club they think it was. I'm going to give you a little stab at it. Speaking of clubs that play games, who do you think it might be?
You put me under the microscope here because if I mention a club that I think it might be, then I might get in trouble.
I think we all know who it probably is.
Yes, well, there's clubs out there with salary cap room. Michael, you've gone very quiet.
Clubs that like to play games, Mick.
That's our Melbourne correspondent. So I just let him take the floor.
Well, it was until they're off me now. They're off me over the story. Anyway, we'll make up.
Don't dirty laundry on this podcast. I've learned the hard way.
Bloody Gronk.
Yeah, but you've come around full circle.
Anyway, if I'm Melbourne, I'm just be repeating what Reedy said. Like you have all three in your squad. In your 17, Papenhuyzen becomes the first player picked in the back five if there's an injury, and you can shift Nick Meaney around or whatever the case may be. Nick Meaney's I think Nick Meaney's intriguing because, well, it's an interesting. He's a November 1 guy, so he's got 12 months left. does the club pay him significant money to be their starting fullback in the NRL as that mid-tier sort of number one? I think he's proven he can do that. He's a goal kicker.
I don't think so, Nick. I mean, he's not an elite. He's a very, very good fullback. He had a very good year, right?
I said mid-tier fullback.
Well, but who's going to sign him on big money to go and be a mid-tier fullback?
But what money? What's big money for a mid-tier fullback? You could get him for 5, I guess. 6.
Would you pay him 5, 6?
Potentially.
Okay.
Which club would be on the lookout for
A
him,
mid-tier
though?
fullback.
Well, if you're looking at uncertain clubs at fullback, I mean, Dragons would be one where you're not sure with Sloan off contract in 2024. They're obviously talking to Connor Tracy, the Dragons.
Connor's been away or something, hasn't he? Or Flano's been away. What's happened with that?
Yeah, they're talking. I think the Dogs are looking at him too,
Oh,
potentially.
another squad player. Good on you, Bulldogs. Yeah, coming.
You're not a fan?
No, he's a good player, but I mean, they've got a lot of good play. They've got a lot of. They seem to be signing a lot of good players.
Yeah.
Aside from Steve Curran, a lot of good players.
A lot of good players.
They need great players.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, it might be. Might they be lining themselves up for a 2025 tilt at somebody? 'Cause
you would hope so.
you guys are working on something for the weekend we're just around the corner from November 1. So
Yeah, and it's significant now, November 1, right? It actually means something in the past. It's been a loose
now explain that for us.
deadline. Well, clubs...
What in the past and what it means now.
In the past, it was a make-believe deadline, right? Basically, you could talk to whoever you like. You just couldn't sign anything. You
Could talk money.
You could do
everything.
anything but sign, right?
Yeah.
So we all knew where players might go, who they were talking to, right? So it was irrelevant. Now there's a hard and fast rule that you cannot engage. You can have an expression of interest with a player.
There's even a debate about that.
I know some clubs are, but the NRL clarified that, didn't
Yeah.
they? To clubs saying yes, you can have an expression of interest, and that's as far as it can go. Otherwise, there'll be heavy sanctions, which we don't know what they are yet, but they'll be including fines, potential deregistration, potential, if it's really bad and there's repeated loss of competition points, these sort of things that will come into play to be deterrents. But so now November 1 is when the transfer window opens, where you can have hard and fast negotiations with players. So
apparently they've sent some letters out to agents in the past fortnight warning them just be careful, basically. So they're going to keep a close eye on it for once. And they're going to, they're threatening to take real action, which...
So in other words, do your deals in person, don't send a paper trail.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to ask, what does that mean for the third parties, the people on the fringes?
Ooh.
Well, if you don't have an official role with the club, you do what you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are plenty of people around different
Types.
clubs who
Types.
who don't have official roles. So how are they governed?
They're not.
So is
They're
this-
not.
Well,
Are we going to see?
unless you can link
is this
them
going to
somehow.
change anything, or
Yeah,
is it just
I actually think it has.
Yeah, well,
I
I
think
think
it
it's
has.
changed,
I think it spooked a few people
Yep.
into either taking those conversations strictly behind closed doors or not having them.
Because we've seen a little bit of movement. Obviously, do we know what's happened with our Dolphins yet?
In what sense?
Yeah, well, they're facing
the
a fine,
appeal.
aren't they? They've got an appeal.
Actually, that's a good question. We shall make a call on that today.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
So obviously there are, there are rules around that. So if they enforce them, fine. But you're holding the ocean
I
back
think
with
they're
a
going to
broom,
enforce.
aren't
I
you?
think they will enforce it this time.
Yeah.
I think. Well, I think they will try to enforce it.
Yeah.
Whether it
It's
comes off
difficult.
or not.
It's difficult to prove.
So-
But I agree with you. I think it's had an impact
You've
in
had
a relatively short
conversations
time.
with CEOs and managers
Yeah.
and stuff, and have you recruitment, and you've noticed.
Yeah, I think they've taken they've stepped back a little bit, and they're concerned, particularly that Dolphins fine that came down. That I think that spooked a lot of clubs at least. And I think clubs will be actually saying to their recruitment guys, the CEOs, just don't push the boundaries.
It's risky business if you're threatened with deregistration.
Great movie that.
his eyes
got
glossed
no idea.
over. Henry Blake was fantastic. In it. McLean Stevenson.
Was that Phil's
Fishing
brother?
mate,
He
fishing
might
out.
have been in that one.
McLean Stevenson.
That's the actor who played Henry Blake.
See, even I didn't know that.
Did you?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Are you a MASH train spotter?
Yeah,
or something,
I
are you?
love MASH. Great show.
All this sort of random stuff he's
I
into.
know Alan Elder. That's about
Yeah.
it.
Hawkeye.
Yeah, Hawkeye.
What, for cricket?
What? Oh,
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye, yeah. Forward past technology.
Anyway, listen to questions, Mobsy.
Yeah, well, we
what
should
do you
move
got?
on.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the whole list of our off contract guys
Oh,
looking at for the
where are
weekend.
they?
But
Oh, wow.
are there,
I haven't done mine yet.
what are the? They want to show behind the curtain how disorganised you are at times.
Oh my God.
This is the whole list. Have you done Reedy's list, have you?
No,
it's not the whole list,
I
is
brought
it?
in what was there the other day. But obviously there's some big names coming off contract. You know, where do you think things stand with guys like Jerome Luai now that Penrith are making moves, showing them upping? Is this the old tell them your highest price and you take it a little bit higher to make it look like you're...
I don't think he's going to have a lot of options. I wrote a piece last week saying the Dragons should have elashed him and they're not interested. They're not going there.
They're not?
No.
No, they're not in for him.
I don't think the Tigers are going to go there. There's been some whispers they will, but I don't think they will. My gut feel is they won't. And that really only leaves Canterbury. Aside from them, I don't know who else is going to have a go at him.
Geez, I tell you what, the Raiders wouldn't, would they? Because
no, they've got no interest.
You wouldn't want one of those mugglers down there in Canberra.
And look, I know
they'd need a half.
I know we all say there's a halves shortage, but if you look to November 1, you're going to have Keary, Dearden, Ezra Mann. I don't think the Bronx won't get a deal done with Ezra Mann before next Tuesday. Luai, that's 4 big ones alone.
Yep.
You know, all those blokes are going to get, I think, really big offers. So there's no, you know, and I think Jerome, he's seen as such a Penrith kid, don't you think? I think he's got such a link with that footy club. It's hard to see him leaving. I think some clubs see it that way.
Yeah. And look,
and he's been offered $850 to stay. Now, you know, you'd have to offer him $950 to get him out of there. Is he worth that? I mean, I think he is, but a lot of clubs don't think he's worth that.
But you look at that as well. You're going to lose 40% of that to tax, so you lose 40 grand of that to tax. If you go to a club, let's just throw Matt Burton in the mix for here. He goes to Canterbury, doesn't make Origin. That's 30 grand a game. That's 90 grand you miss out on there. All of a sudden, you know, this is why you've got to pay overs to get somebody. And otherwise, he's happy there. He's settled at Penrith, loves the place. Well, it's only a 2-year extension. I found that interesting.
Yeah, well, I suppose they've got
Cole?
some. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just they've got some cap things to work out down the track more than.
Yeah. It allows him, I guess, if he wants to cash in later too, and he's still at that top level. But I did find the 2 years interesting, but I think he stays. I don't know. I'm not confident.
Yeah. I think he stays. I just don't think he's going to get a realistic option to go. One that's big enough.
Well, to entice him, like that 1.1 sort of realm.
Yep.
But even looking at, when you said the Warriors are potentially looking at a big signing, probably wouldn't be in their halves anyway, because they've got 17 halves.
He'd be in the halves. Yeah, he'd start for the Warriors.
I know, he would, but they've
Sean
got
Johnson, depending on what happens with Sean Johnson.
So they've got Luke Metcalf, who's November 1 guy as well.
Metcalf.
And I know there's some, and I think I'm pretty sure he's going to November 1, Luke Metcalf, because I think his management see the benefit of going to that date because he's a half in the current climate.
Yeah. Well, they got good ones on that. You know, Rocco Berry, I think.
He's not a bad player.
Does he fit in your frustrated players list?
Rocco Berry?
I thought he's a great
No, I
young
like
player.
Rocco Berry. He's a good player, I like him.
Yeah, Luke Metcalf, great.
Dallin.
But they do have a few of the older guys, don't they? Tohu Harris, Sean Johnson. I mean, not that Dallin's old,
what they do with them.
Tohu Harris, such a good player though. Such a good. He's sort of the glue at that footy club. Tohu Harris, such a good player.
You keep him on there. The other one of interest, the Sharks. They haven't brought anyone in this season, correct? And so they've got a few.
What do they got? What do you
coming
got for
off?
us?
Well, obviously, straight sets last year when they finished second. First round of the finals this year, straight out the door. What do they need to turn them around? Got a good hooker in Blake Brayley.
Yep. I think their spine, if you compare their spine to the other elite teams, they're short. Their spine doesn't go with the Melbournes, the South Sydneys, the Penriths. I know South's had a dud year in the end.
Should though, when you've got Brayley, Nico as your 9 and 7, and then
what?
It falls behind. Will Kennedy.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's good. Like it's good enough to compete.
Well, but they are competing.
Yeah.
We're saying what's going to take them into that elite status.
Talakai dropped off big time this year for the impact that he had last year. I think that he didn't have those sort of big moments that we saw, force his way into the Origin side last year. And I think their forward pack lacks a bit of punch. That's my issue with the Sharks. Their forwards are same. You know,
You've been saying that for a long time, haven't you?
well, do you get like Finucane, McInnes,
Yep.
Jack Williams?
Who do you want? Who would you go and get? What do you want for them, Nick?
I think they need a dynamic. They need something dynamic in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
You know, Rudolph and Hammond-Ueli have shown glimpses of it, but haven't found that consistency. Royce Hunt is a good bench forward, but for mine, it's their forward pack, and I've banged on about it. It's same.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
They're all good players. Finucane and McInnes, they're good players, right? But too similar
There's
for
something
mine.
missing. A bit of X factor in the forwards.
A bit of size, a bit of there's. You know, in an ideal world, if I'm Cronulla and I can make this work, I'm playing Connor Tracy at centre. I'm moving Talakai to the back row. If he can find a bit of that X factor, because that's what he's got. And then he sort of got him out of a jam last season because he had that. And you know, they didn't have those flashy players in the forward pack, but they could find it from him. And the wingers are outstanding. I love the wingers. Yeah, Katoa and Mulatalo. I think they're outstanding wingers.
And Connor Tracy would only help there, wouldn't he? You know,
Well, surely he's got his heart set on leaving. That's quite clear. And he's asked for a release already to go. The end.
It's just an opportunity. If they said to him, mate, you're going to start round 1 in the centres, I think he stays.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I don't think he just wants to play first grade, and he's a first grader. But yeah, for mine from the Sharks, I think they need to mix up the forward pack.
I think their spine's short. I think they need to land someone big in their halves to partner Nico Hines for me.
That's why you're paying Nico $1 million though.
That's all right. Why can't you sign 2 of them? Other clubs do.
Yeah, they've got a lot of money in their back line. A lot of money tied up. I think Teague Walton's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. Yeah.
So I just think that they're probably for mine. It's a dynamic middle.
Jacob Safidi.
He'd help.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
I'll give his agent a ring.
you're gonna swap him for
You're
someone.
in Fitzy, I'll let him know.
Yeah, swap him.
just be careful. You're November 1. You might be.
Yeah, the Reed is allowed to be the middleman.
Yeah. Third party.
Third party, baby. Oh,
Third
please.
party. Could they be journos?
He thinks he's a football at one club.
At one club.
Several clubs. How many coaches do you give your advice to these days?
Sometimes I do.
Which clubs could you fix?
I've basically just run Penrith's roster for the last 3 years. Which clubs could I fix? Look at down the bottom of the ladder. I could fix some.
Bulldogs, you're offering Gus a hand.
No. Anyway.
Well, you want to move on to listener questions, and if you want to send some through, Mick always puts out a shout out on Twitter, but if you're not on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called now, michael.carayannis@news.com.au, and that is Carayannis. So Michael.
I like the email. Send them on.
Yeah, what's happened? We've been a bit short of
short this week.
Listener questions, really.
Yeah, it was weird this week, a bit short, but we got some good ones.
Maybe people have switched off.
Yeah, and I enjoy listener question time.
Peter wants to know, if the NRL was to do a version of Hard Knocks looking at the pre-season, which non-top 8 team from 23 would you like to see featured and why? So Hard Knocks is an NFL version of the show where they pick a side that didn't make the finals to play in pre-season and follow them around for about a month, right? It's really good. This year they did New York Jets, which I thought was a bit boring because it was like the Aaron Rodgers tribute show.
I thought it was good.
It was a love-in for Aaron Rodgers. It was a bit bizarre.
South Sydney.
Yep.
Why South?
Oh, mate, star factor coming off a crap year.
Yep.
They got the wow factor, man.
Bulldogs.
Yeah, they're the two.
Gus, imagine a camera following Gus around all day.
Gus not on the training paddock, mate.
Oh, of course, no, of course not.
They're the two for mine. I'd be happy with either of them.
Great question, though.
Good question.
That is a very good question. Good on you, Pete.
Remember they used to do that on Fox? David Tapp used to go around on summer. Remember? And used to do like a hour show each club over summer.
One of the great South Sydney CEOs back in the day. Tapp.
Do you remember that show? Was it Summer League or something like that? I don't know. I used to watch that.
You want to bring it back?
Love a bit more of that.
Yeah, okay, let's bring it back.
Joey, this could be yours because you're doing recruitment for the Dragons, Reed, man. Any word on who Shane Flanagan is targeting in 2024?
Try to ring Flanagan,
right? You're in all sorts not getting called back.
Yeah. On who? For 24. Okay, well, Connor Tracy's an obvious one.
For 24.
But again, he hasn't got a release for 24. He's got permission to negotiate for 25. So, I think what they'll hope to do is sign blokes for 25 and hope they get an early release, like Connor Tracy and some other guys who they're obviously sniffing around at the moment. Well, they've got to wait till November 1, but there's some guys who are obviously interested in. Got a lot of money to spend. Got to retain some blokes as well.
Yep.
And for where the Dragons are at, they don't need to be investing in a guy like Josh Addo-Carr. That's not going to help where they're at as a club.
No.
Not at the moment.
No. But they need to make some moves, and they will be in the market big time.
Pixel Dregs wants to know, is there any smoke to reports that PNG will be the 18th team? Things to have gone quiet since last week.
That's your baby, Mick. PNG.
Well, we've been writing about it for 3 months or longer.
How did that suddenly become a story again?
I'm not sure.
It didn't go anywhere.
It hasn't changed.
It
hasn't changed, yeah. So PNG, barring a catastrophe, will be the 18th team. Yeah. It is to ward off the impact of China in the region, which is what we wrote months ago, and people laughed at us, but that's dead set.
Peter spoke about it again.
That is what's going to happen.
In that Sky interview.
And to flesh that a little further, so the government is going to be chipping some money into this franchise.
Some money.
Well,
lots of cash.
Yeah, well, they're hoping for a 10-year commitment from the government.
Yeah,
that's what
so people are obviously asking, well, where is your audience, your viewing audience up there? Because you're not going to get, it's not a big geographic centre where you're going to get lots of eyeballs on it. You do get an extra TV game, which obviously adds a certain amount of money into that deal, but as far as audience goes, but it's coming. It's a bit of a political football at the moment, isn't it? So, but it seems like every time that there's a meeting between a politician from either the federal government or the Queensland government and PNG, that this seems to flare up again.
It'll happen. It'll happen. Okay. You don't think it'll happen?
I'm still cynical about it.
Yeah, but do you think it'll happen? Do you think it'll happen? Do you think PNG
I think it probably will happen, but whether it'll work, that's where I have an issue.
They're different conversations, right? Do you think PNG will be the 18th team?
I reckon they'll go to 19.
I think they'll go bang bang and they'll go Perth as 19.
Perth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, who do you think?
Maybe Brisbane East, another team in South East Queensland, maybe.
They'll go, and then 20th will be New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand, yes.
The 20.
That's a good one.
That's my 18, 19, 20 trifecta.
Ooh. So you got
my racing. I'm
Perth Jets?
Hopefully. Good yarn. Dan wants to know, no offence, Dan, this could be the worst question ever. Turbo to Titans in a swap deal for Jaden Campbell or AJ Brimson. Rate it or hate it?
If I'm who?
Well,
if I'm the Titans,
I love it.
Love it. If I'm the Seagulls, go jump in a lake.
It's not going anywhere, Tommy, please. I mean,
sorry, Dan.
He'll dictate how they go next year, again, as he does every year he plays, Tommy.
So if you've got better questions than Dan, please send them through.
That's the last one you get from Dan.
Sorry, Dan. You're all right, mate.
No, but I tell you what, I still think Tommy's a fullback. I'm not buying into the move him to the centre stuff.
No.
I'm loving watching Tolu Cooler at the moment playing.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, playing in the Nationals. So it's hopefully just. Same with Papenhuyzen, just one of those guys, when he's fit and firing, the league's better for it. So, yeah. Dinner.
I think we're going to do Indian takeaway tonight. It's a bit cold, so we've been craving it, so we're going to smash some Indian out. What about you?
I'm on a diet.
Yeah, we know. How you going now? How many kilos down?
I was on a diet last week too, wasn't I? Still at 3. I've stagnated over the past week.
Has there been any
Let my guard down a bit. Well, I had a big weekend. I went out, had a few drinks. Went to Queen Chow at Manly. Ooh, good joint.
Yeah.
Smashed the food. So good. So I might just I might just be really boring and have a salad. But the secret to a good salad
yes.
You've got to put some things in there that spice it up a bit.
Such as? What's the...
Low fat though.
Green chilli. That's
nice.
one of my key ingredients. Coriander. And, things, radish. Okay, just things that are low carb.
Do you have any protein in there?
Low calories. Well, I normally do. I have a bit of salmon.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I might just have a salad. I need to just get back under control.
Before the weekend.
Yeah. Need to get the beach bod back. You with me?
What about you,
Summer's coming, baby.
Treat the body like a temple and rent it out on weekends. Is that your mantra at the moment?
Actually, I got a Friday night. I'm out again Friday night. It's a mate's birthday. Pizzas and beers. So I got to, I got to basically starve myself for 3 days.
It'll be 3 kilos again next week. I'll mark this down.
Anyway, what are you having?
The kids and I are going to experiment with a little bit of Sanchoy bao. So we're going to...
You're going to make it yourself?
Yeah, going to give it ourselves.
It's risky, isn't it?
No, well, I like engaging the kids in this stuff.
What do you have there? Beef or do you have pork and veal?
We're going to do beef and stick it that way.
In the old lettuce leaf?
Yeah, lettuce leaf.
The kids are going to eat that in the lettuce leaf?
Yeah, well,
wow.
we'll see. We'll see about that. So
Oh, my
Central Bell's so
kids are
good.
very fussy.
Oh, yeah, they're tough. But hopefully, if we engage them in,
Yeah, you get them to
doing
make it. That's
then
the-
they'll-
What do you
there
put
you
in
go.
there? A bit of corn,
Yeah, I do love a nice little bit of sweet corn, but
chili. Put some chili in there.
chili in there for my young bloke. My daughter doesn't like that, but
Okay.
yeah, we'll have a little bit of ginger and you know,
ginger.
just
Bit of lemongrass. You know, I like lemongrass.
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
so I'm hitting
lemongrass
the
is
shops
very
on the way
good.
home before, so I can.
Did it
I'll
ready to go
report
with
back. What are you doing tonight? You coming around to my
Did you
place?
say you get the chops on the way
The
home?
shops, did you, bro?
Oh, the chops. I was going to say, what you got chops for Sancho Bow for? It makes no sense.
Don't you put chops in your
You know a
Sancho
good way to
Bow?
make chops? Lemon, rosemary, garlic.
No.
You can't beat
See ya.
lemon chops.
That's it. We're out.